Good afternoon. I'm Dr. William Painter with Journey Road Ministries. Wearing my festive summer clothing. Just got back from an interment, a funeral, as it were, setting to rest my mother. And on the way down, this was in Missouri, on the way down, my daughter rode with me, and we pulled into North Kansas City, Whataburger, because we can't get them up here. And she started singing. We saw all these houses and apartments, and they all really looked the same, kind of. She said she started singing this song, and called "Little Boxes" by Pete Seeger. It was released in, I think, 1961, and I'm going to sing that for you now. Then we'll come back after the break, have our gospel reading, and talk about why I chose that particular tune. So here we go. Little boxes on the hillside, little boxes made of ticky-tacky, little boxes, little boxes, little boxes, all the same. There's a green one and a pink one and a blue one and a yellow one, and they're all made out of ticky-tacky, and they all look just the same. And the people in the houses, they all went to university, and they all got put in boxes, little boxes, all the same. And there's doctors, and there's lawyers, and business executives, and they all get put in boxes, and they all come out just the same. And they all play on the golf course and drink their martinis dry, and they all have pretty children, and the children go to school, and the children go to summer camp, and then to the university, and they all get put in boxes, and they all come out the same. And the boys go into business, and they marry and raise a family, and they all get put in boxes, and they all look just the same. There's a green one and a pink one and a blue one and a yellow one, and they're all made out of ticky-tacky, and they all look just the same. I love that song. Drove my wife a little crazy. I'll explain why after the break. Okay, welcome back. You're safe. I put the guitar away. We are going to have our gospel reading for the Proper 8 season after Pentecost. And this reading comes from Mark chapter 5, verses 21 through 43. When Jesus had crossed again in the boat to the other side, a great crowd gathered around him, and he was by the sea. Then one of the leaders of the synagogue, named Jairus, came, and when he saw him, fell at his feet and begged him repeatedly, "My little daughter is at the point of death. Come and lay your hands on her so that she may be well and live." So he went with him, and a large crowd followed him and pressed in on him. Now there was a woman who had been suffering from hemorrhages for 12 years. She had endured much under many physicians and had spent all that she had, and she was no better, but rather grew worse. She had heard about Jesus and came up behind him and the crowd and touched his cloak. For she said, "If I but touch his clothes, I will be made well." Immediately her hemorrhage stopped, and she felt in her body that she was healed of her disease. Immediately aware that power had gone forth from him, Jesus turned about in the crowd and said, "Who touched my clothes?" And his disciples said to him, "You see the crowd pressing in on you. How can you say, 'Who touched me?'" He looked all around to see who had done it. But the woman, knowing what had happened to her, came in fear and trembling and fell down before him and told him the whole truth. He said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be healed of your disease." And while he was still speaking, some people came from the leader's house to say, "Your daughter is dead. Why trouble the teacher any further?" But overhearing what they said, Jesus said to the leader of the synagogue, "Do not fear, only believe." He allowed no one to follow except Peter, James, and John, the brother of James. When he came to the house of the leader of the synagogue, he saw commotion, people weeping and wailing loudly. When he had entered, he said to them, "Why do you make a commotion and weep? The child is not dead, but sleeping." And they laughed at him. And then he put them all outside and took the child's father and mother and those who were with him and went in where the child was. He took her by the hand, and he said to her, "Talitha cum," which means, "Little girl, get up." And immediately the girl got up and began to walk. She was 12 years of age. At this, they were overcome with amazement. He ordered them that no one should know this and told them to give her something to eat. Thus endeth the gospel. I love that last little bit where he says, and get her something to eat. The kid's hungry. That's what you do with kids, right? Well, this is a really powerful, very powerful passage. And it's not just about healing and faith, but it's about reaching out to people who have been excluded one way or another. Now, the obvious interpretations of this and the sermons that flow from it are that the woman has been menstruating for 12 years uncontrollably, not on a monthly basis. And as a result, she's considered unclean and impure and cannot enter the synagogue, so she's excluded from society, from her faith community. And the little girl is about to begin menarche, and where her menstruation begins, and she herself is dying. And Jesus comes and says that it's your faith that healed you, not magic. And it's interesting that in Mark he says Jesus spoke to her in Aramaic, saying Talitha cum. Most of the audience reading this text or hearing this text are Greek readers, and so he wanted to make sure that this wasn't misunderstood to be some kind of magical incantation, which means get up and walk. There, I changed my background a little bit so it's not so creepy. Now, the reason I think this is so important, beyond the sort of, when I talked last time about sandwiches, we have, a story in the middle that's important, and you have a story beginning and a story ending, so it goes like A, B, C, C, B, A, and the A part is the most, leads to an important part, and the most important part for you to pay attention to is the middle part of a sandwich. And the middle part of this sandwich is where Jesus first he takes the three followers, the ones who go experience the transfiguration, the ones who sit with him in Gethsemane, and he tells them, don't say a word. Now, Jesus has been touched by a woman who is considered unclean and impure. He reaches out to a young girl who is about to become a young woman, and he reaches out to them in ways that are contraindicated, in ways that break the rules, in ways that he should have said to the woman who touched him, "How can you dare touch me, you impure woman? Get away from me," And he should have told the guy, they said, "Oh, your daughter's dead," and he should have said, "Oh, well, too bad, so sad." He didn't. He reached out. And I want to tell you that we as Christians have forgotten about how to reach out. I sat and watched this debate the other night, and this is a political statement because it's important as Christians that we stand up and fight this racism, this fascism, this hatred that is spewing out from one political party, from the grand old party, from the GOP and their leader, Donald Trump, who did nothing but spew lies and hatred for 90 minutes, basically unchallenged by the media, unchallenged by anyone. Joe Biden was stunned into silence with this, what's called a Gish Gallop. It's a form of propaganda where you just spew, like from a fire hydrant, you spew hatred, you spew falsehoods. For 90 minutes, he just outright lied. And the world he wants is the world that is the unified Reich. He stated so very clearly. The unified Reich, the Fourth Reich, he wants to complete what Hitler started. Now, in Germany in the late 20s and 30s, Christians did not stand up to Hitler, right? All these guards who were exterminating, who were gassing, who were brutalizing Jews and the mentally retarded and schizophrenic and the the Poles and the Gypsies. Oh, they're not Gypsies. They're Les Nomades. I can't remember the proper Rome. I can't think of the right name. Les Nomades. They put them in concentration camps and killed them. 6 million Jews were executed, or exterminated in these concentration camps, and these guards came home on the weekend and sat down with their families and ate dinner and got up and went to church and felt really good about themselves. Well, that's happening in this country right now, and I'm going to tell you right now, it is your obligation, it is your duty to stand up as a Christian and oppose these people who lie, who want to take our democracy away from us, who want to call immigrants bad people. We are a country of immigrants, who talk about African Americans as having black jobs. I don't even know what that means. You must stand up against these people. Now, I sang that song, Little Boxes. It's a Pete Seeger song. It's from 1961, and he was describing actually the woman who wrote it. I can get her name here very quickly. Little Boxes. They wrote it about the conformity of the emerging middle class. They all, Malvina Reynolds wrote it in 62, and Seeger released it in 63. They're describing the conformity of this emerging middle class that came as a result of the GI Bill from the men who went to Europe and Asia and fought against fascism. And the result was the fact that our economy boomed, our democracy boomed, but it wasn't booming for everybody. All those little people in those little boxes were white people. Okay, and little boys went to university, and little boys got jobs. It wasn't little girls. There's no mention of little girls, and they all lived in little boxes. They were all made of ticky-tacky, and they all looked the same. And even that dream has been taken away from us. We don't have that middle class option anymore. We don't have people even living in. Our Supreme Court just passed a law saying that it was illegal to be homeless in this country, but it was legal for judges like them to take bribes. They also took away protections from federal agencies like the Food and Drug Administrations, like the Securities Exchange Commission, like the EPA, took our protections away for us, our protections, took their supervision of protections from us and gave it to judges. So now we've got some judge in Amarillo, Texas, passing laws about the fact that we don't need clean water in Iowa, and there is nothing we can do about it. These steps toward the Project 2025, which is an attempt to turn our country into some imagined theocracy that has nothing to do with Christianity, is ongoing right now. And it is important, it is imperative that you stand up, that you go vote, that you get your neighbors to vote. It is your Christian duty to oppose these people and stand up for the woman who is hemorrhaging in the crowd, to stand up for the little girl who is dying in this man's home, to stand up for transgender, LGBTQ plus members of the community, our minorities, our immigrants, our Hispanics, our Asians, our black communities. Stand up for them, not because it's just good for our democracy, because it is. You know what happened to Germany in the 1930s? They were devastated. They were destroyed. They were brought to their knees. If you don't think it can happen here, you better think again, because Germany was the most powerful military power on the planet, and we destroyed them. Japan was the most powerful economic power in Asia, and we destroyed them. And we destroyed them because we came together as people, freedom-loving, democratic peoples, not as Romans. And these people are like the Romans. They only believe in power. Fascism comes from the word fascus, which is a Latin word meaning a bundle of sticks that is stronger together than as an individual. These people are fascists, and they must be opposed by people who consider themselves Christians. Otherwise, you're going to be no better than those German guards who are exterminating Jews in the concentration camps and going to church on Sunday morning so that your pastor can make you feel good about yourself. Well, the time has come for you to stand up. And if you hear this message, share it. If you hear this message, tell others about it. It is your Christian obligation and duty to oppose this evil. They say that Satan is called the Prince of Lies. We just saw the Prince of Lies on TV this past week doing nothing but lying and lying and lying. I don't get that work done very often. Okay, thank you very much. Have a blessed week, and I'll see you in about 3.